Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you everyone who's joining us worldwide for our final webinar of this year. We've accomplished so much, and I'm glad to be able to share in those successes with you today. Before we begin, I would like to introduce your host for today's webinar. It is myself, Christina, SuiteApp sales representative at Fast4, coming live to you from our Netherlands office. Also joining us, drumroll please, is indeed our product manager, Dennis, who will be in the later half of today's session demonstrating a few of the biggest releases from this year. We also have Urian, who's monitoring the Q&A, so please feel free to ask any questions along the way. We will start the agenda with some of the company accomplishments, and then we will take a closer look into the SuiteApps developments of this year, then proceed to the demonstration from Dennis, and finally wrap up with a sneak preview of some of our future releases. We do have an action-packed session today, so please grab yourself a warm drink and enjoy the show. So as many of you are aware, we kicked off this year with the formation of our US entity. And since then, the growth of our US team with Mike, Nikki, Ellen, and Tony, all pictured here together, peacefully enjoying Friendsgiving by their office fireplace. To contribute further into the growth, we were also officially opened our Czech office. Here's a picture of the Brno team, all enjoying some pizza on a nice summer day. And folks, that is not all with our global expansion. I would also like to introduce a few of our newest APAC team members, offering even more support to the overwhelming demand for our SuiteApps customers, with the latest joiners being Tara and Ashley just this past month. One of the biggest and exciting successes this year was also Suite World. And from what I've heard, it was a memorable event. A big thanks goes out to the US team who were there in the front lines and made it that much more outstanding. In addition, of course, this would not have been possible without our marketing team, who helped in making the whole experience that much more engaging. These are just a few of the pictures from the event. It's a beautiful looking booth. I must say I wouldn't mind having that island in my kitchen. So let's take a deeper look into the SuiteApp stats of this year. For Scan and Capture, we are at above 500 customers in 25 countries. We've also had 6 major functionality releases in 2021. For bank reconciliation, we're well over 700 customers in 40 different countries and have seen 5 major bank rec releases this year. We are expecting to see a fuller roadmap than ever before, and we will be sharing with you a sneak preview at the end of today's session, so please do stay tuned. Taking a closer look into the timeline of all of our major functionality releases, on the top row, you will find all of our bank reconciliation releases, and in the bottom are the Scan and Capture. So the first half of this year was quite a notable period. The three-way matching was probably the biggest feature release, where our customers are now able to process incoming bills to match with existing purchase orders within NetSuite. You might have also noticed while using Scan and Capture that you're able to transfer that data from the PDF to the transaction with just a click of a button. That is called the clickable PDF functionality. We have completed several webinars on these releases as well, which can be found on our website. In addition, you're also able to find more details on each of these new enhancements in our knowledge base. And on the bottom of the same page, you can find all of our full release notes. So let's take a look at the functions that we released in the second half of this year that Dennis will also be showing you today. The first was transaction line defaulting, which allowed our customers to auto-select an account on the line level based on descriptions on the PDF. Soon after, we released the dynamic subsidiary selection, also known as single email plugin policy, which enabled our customers to automatically identify the appropriate subsidiary from the bill information. We also released support for a new file format, the N43 parser, also known as Norma 43, widely used and very critical for our customers in Spain. For those customers also using BankRec for PSP reconciliation, we added an additional support for reconciling customer refund transactions. Then in our latest release, we introduced the point-and-click auto-learning functionality, where we can now start mapping information on the invoice, enabling our users to teach the system to remember fields on the PDF for future invoices. And then in our next bank rec release, a solution that a lot of our customers would be interested in, we are going to introduce the support for intercompany journals. So now the moment that everyone's been waiting for, the product demonstration of the recent releases, I'm officially handing it over to you, Dennis.
Thank you for the introduction. Let me first start sharing the screen, and from there we can pick up the demo. Can you please confirm that you can see my screen now, just to be sure?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. So today I'm going to demonstrate a few features that were just announced. I will start with the bank reconciliation features, and then I will go to the scan and capture features. The first thing that we did release is the N43 format parser. So we are now able to process N43 files that are based in normal files that are widely used inside Spain. During the demo, I will set up a full system. So I will set up the multiple statement configuration, and then we will actually import an actual file. So at this point, I will simply navigate to the setup section of my bank reconciliation, and I will go first to the multiple statement config, and I will create a new one. And you can see this is a really simple, easy process. I will give this one a name, N43 in this case. I will also select at this point the actual file format. So in this list, we will see the N43. At that point, I will list the folder where I'm going to store the files that are incoming. And I do have the option to limit the number of transactions on a statement, but for our demo, I will leave it empty and import everything into one single statement. As soon as I save this configuration record, I can navigate to step number 2, and that is the actual bank account configuration. So again, I will navigate to the setup section. I will go to the bank account configurations, and I will create a new one. At this point, of course, I will select an account within my system that I would like to use to import my data on. So I will type it in and select it. So I created one especially for the webinar. I will select the file format that I'm going to import. So again, this will be N43, of course. And then I'm going to select the multiple statement in the multiple statement configuration I just created. So that will be the N43. To extract the data correctly, we need to set the identifier. In this case, or in many cases, the identifier will be the bank account number or the IBAN number. So in this case, I know it already, and I will paste it here. Of course, there is some further configuration to do, but I will keep it really simple and straightforward, and will only do the basic configuration. So at this point, I'm ready with this configuration, and I can already press save. So at this point, I need to enter one moment. I will press save, and at this point, I create the configuration that will allow me to import the data file. To import the data file, I simply navigate to transactions, bank reconciliation, import statements. And this allows me to import or a single option on the left-hand side, so one file with only one bank account, or I can import a multiple. So for today, we will import a multiple configuration. I select the file format, and then I'm going to select the file that I would like to import. So I select here my N43 file that's coming from the bank. And at this point, I can simply press submit, and we will see in a few seconds the outcome of this import. And here it is loading. So it gives us a few seconds. There it comes. So we can now see that the data is nicely imported. We have in total 3 lines that are imported. And from here, I can start the reconciliation. And I will directly start using this bank statement to show you how our intercompany journal support works exactly. First thing to remember is that you need to activate the functionality. So the first thing is that your users must have the permission. So there's an additional permission introduced that allows users to create intercompany journal postings. And the second one, you need to define on each bank account configuration separately if that bank account is allowed to create intercompany journal postings. We did that on purpose to be sure that that feature can only be used where you would like to use it inside the NetSuite system. So you have the option to limit where you would like to. I will first show you the setting where you can do that. So if I would again go to the bank account configuration. And here if you scroll to the bottom, you will see a new checkbox. And this checkbox is named Enable Intercompany Journal Posting. So only if this checkbox is enabled, only at that point the user will have the ability to post intercompany journal bookings. And you can also see that on the line. Here on the line, you can see a new field that's currently shown IC2 subsidiary, and this is used to create the intercompany journal booking. To create the intercompany journal booking, we do need a clearing account that we're going to use between the subsidiaries. And this is something that you need to define. So here also you can introduce a limitation for your users on how they can potentially post the data. So at this point, you can see there is nothing yet. So there are no configurations, and this will not allow me to create any intercompany journal booking. So the first thing I need to do is create a new one. We do have two options to do this. The first one could be here from new. Remember, this is only possible if you do have the correct permissions. So if you only have few permissions, you cannot create new ones. If I create new, a pop-up will appear, and at this point, I can instantly create a new configuration. And the configuration is really straightforward. We do have a from subsidiary and to subsidiary, and then the clearing account that we would like to use. On the left-hand side, we can see the bank subsidiary is currently FAS4 and LBP. So this is the subsidiary that I'm working in, and this will be the from subsidiary. So the first thing I will do is select that particular subsidiary to post from. I lost it, here it is. And then I can select the subsidiary where I would like to post to. And this is also what your users will be having to post if they would like to. So in this case, I could select, for example, the subsidiary France. And at that point, I can decide which clearing account to be using. So I can simply select here one that I would like to use. So I would choose in this case the clearing account AU. So at this point, I created a configuration. You can see it is now listed in the IQ2 subsidiary, and the only step remaining is that I need to select accounts to where I would like to post the funds. So that can be any account of your choice. And in this case, I will simply choose advertising. Remember that it is possible to also book directly on AR or AP. So if you would select here an AR or AP account, and you would also select in the name column here a customer or vendor, it will mean that this intercompany journal booking will behave as a deposit on that vendor or customer in the other subsidiary. And from there, you can manually apply it to a vendor bill or a customer invoice if you would like to. But this is option one, how I can create the intercompany. And basically what I'm stating now is that I would like to post this amount of 1 million to the 6010 advertising account in the subsidiary France. A second option to create the configuration is by simply navigating to the setup section, the bank status section, and then we have also here the intercompany clearing account option. I will select here new and create an additional one. In this case, again, I will select the same subsidiary. In this case, that will be FAS4NL again, and then I will select a subsidiary where I would like to post to. So in this case, I will simply select Germany. I can select a different account if I would like to. So I will select, in this case, other, just to make some distinction about regarding the postings, and I will save this. If I return to the bank statement, I would like to show you a second option how we can create the intercompany bookings. So in the first example, we are booking directly the full amounts to one specific account. But we also have the option to post this amount in different postings if you would like to do that. To enable this, I would simply go to the Alt Match Type column. And here I can select the multi-line journal option. A pop-up will appear as soon as I click on this feature. And that will allow me to post this amount into different subsidiaries. So I can split the amounts as in a way how I would like to. So let's first do the first 100,000. I will select here account. So again, I will select my favorite 6010 accounts, advertising. And here you can see that the drop down will now show two options to me because I have two configurations. This is always filtering. So if you have other configurations for other subsidiaries, they will not be displayed here. I will pass the first amount to Germany, and I will do the remaining amount to a different account. So let's do this to 6020. Transport cost, and I will allocate this to the subsidiary France. As soon as I press submit, the data will be transported to the transaction line, and I can save this statement. During the save process, our tool will figure out the data that we did submit. It will also analyze that in this case, we are going to expect an intercompany journal booking. And in a few moments, we should see two separate journal bookings. And we can see them both here. They are both booked correctly. I will first open the first one just to quickly show you how we create them and what kind of transactions they are. And as you can see, the transaction itself is an actual advanced intercompany journal booking. And we can clearly see here that it is going to post from the webinar bank account to the Four subsidiary in France to the 6010 advertisement account, and of course the same amount. We do take over the memos that were present on the bank statement, and you can see here that our application is using the Clear accounts to transport the funds correctly. In the second example, we did split the amount into two different subsidiaries. So this journal will look a little bit different, but basically the protocol is the same. We can now see again that the 150,000 is going from the bank account in Four NL, and a part is allocated to the German subsidiary and a part is allocated to the France subsidiary. And both configurations did define in different clearing accounts. So we can see that one is using the 9001 and the other is using the 9002. So our tool is automatically splitting this based on what you are requesting. I will close the witness now for this part of the demo, and from here I would like to show the next part of the bank reconciliation. Because we also added a new overview, and I personally believe that this overview could be quite interesting for a lot of people. And I would personally recommend to put it on your dashboard, but of course you are free to do what you would like to. But in this case, I will add it to my dashboard. I will navigate to personalize, and at this point I will grab the custom search option. As soon as I add this one, I do have the option to here set up the portlet, and I will search for a new option that is here, and let's see, bank reconciliation status. If I would add this one, I will make the result 15. I will not allow inline editing, and I will save this. This will now show me instantly an overview of how my system is with reconciliation, where I am, where do I have issues, and where are the differences. So I can see here all the bank accounts that I have. I can see until when they are reconciled. I can see the start balance that was involved. I can see the current end balance. I can see the balance that NetSuite is currently holding, and I can see what the difference is currently. Also, what I can see is the number of statements where there are incorrect balances. So I can really easily see in this overview where I need to pay attention or where I need to change something. And if you would like to see the details of a certain account, you can simply click on the account. It will bring you to a drill down overview, and here I can see quite quickly which bank statements do need my attention and where I do need to resolve the issues. And of course, you can change this save search. We deliver a basic search. You can change it. You can limit it to certain accounts. Maybe you would like to limit to only payment service providers, or maybe bank accounts, or a certain subsidiary. That is all up to you, but you can use this basic search to create different searches, but you can also use this, for example, to create email reminders. For example, each day at the end of the day, this search could send out an email automatically if there are differences, just to notify all the people that should be notified at that point. So I think a really interesting search to add to your dashboard, especially for the head of finance, for example, to see what is exactly happening inside the system. This was all I wanted to show you for the bank reconciliation, and from here I would like to proceed to the scan and capture features. The first thing I would like to show to you is the subsidiary option, where we can now define one email address for all the subsidiaries within your NetSuite system. I will not show you how you can set up an email plugin. That is something that we do state how to do that inside our knowledge base. But if you do have an email plugin, from that point on, you can all connect it to a specific subsidiary. That was by default always our setup. But from now on, you can also state to the system, I will create one general email that is going to be applicable to all my subsidiaries. To do that, you can simply navigate to setup. You can then go to the scan and capture, and then scan and capture setup. In this section, we do provide you the option to treat the behavior. So if I would go to the heavy section, and then to the email, general, I do here have the option to define one general email address. And in this case, I created one and called it or labeled it one email plugin policy. So when somebody is going to send an email to this specific email address that is inside the NetSuite system, our application will try to investigate which subsidiary the transaction belongs to and to which vendor the transaction belongs. And that is all done, of course, on the background by certain logic. And in many cases, this will automatically detect the correct subsidiary and also detect the correct vendor. Of course, my recommendation would still be if you have a subsidiary with really high volumes and the rest is all low volume, and then it is maybe smart to connect it one subsidiary to a single email plugin so you do know already beforehand that the subsidiary is going to be selected correctly, and the remaining subsidiaries can be connected with, for example, this one email plugin. So it can be really handy. And of course, it is all up to the end user to define how they would like to use the system. And if you do like to know more about this, you can always send us an email. The next thing that I would like to show to you is the scan and capture incoming section. And here we are going to open the first bill and process it. And the first feature I would like to show on the vendor bill that's currently opening is the click and point and learning behavior. So within the new version, we do provide you the option to capture additional data that we normally do not capture. As maybe already everybody knows, is that you can hover over the PDF and you will see a rectangle that is slightly orange. And this allows us to capture additional data. So normally we could only click and point and that data would be copied and you could create a vendor bill. But from now on, we can also remember your click and point behavior and automatically apply it on the next incoming vendor bill. For example, if I would always like to populate the memo field with the reference that is on this specific vendor bill, I could click here and I can expand what I would like to capture. So for example, I would like to capture this complete section. You can see that the data is here now populated. I can also do this from bigger view. So for example, if we would like to capture everything that's here in the bottom, I could click on the due date, make the field bigger and capture everything that is here. You can see we copied it at this point. This works for all the fields. So you can also do it on currency fields, number fields, date fields, and even drop-down fields. But with drop-down fields, remember that the value on the PDF must be in naming convention 100% equal to the drop-down option. But as soon as I select this and I would now save the vendor bill, our tool is going to learn from what I just did. So let me save this vendor bill. And during the saving operation, our tool is going to learn what we just applied. And of course, in the next invoice, the invoice was equal. But if the next invoice would not be equal, but from the same vendor, there is logic on the background that will investigate the region where you did do the click and point behavior, and within that region we will still try to capture the data. So even if the data is a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, a little bit higher or lower located, in many cases the application will still find the correct data. So at this point we can see the vendor bill is saved, we can see the data in the memo is present, and we can see the demo clickable PDF data is also present. So until now everything worked perfectly. But if I would return back to the main incoming overview, we can see I have a second bill here from Clear Branding. If I would process this one now, we can instantly see that our tool is learning from the click and point behavior and is automatically capturing the data. In a few seconds, we will see an auto population happening. And as you can see, the memo field is now automatically populated based on our previous import. Also, the demo clickable PDF field is automatically populated again based on the input from the previous vendor bill. So with this behavior, you can really easily capture additional data if you would like to. Currently, this logic is only applicable to the header and bottom section of the PDF. So the header section is where we can see the imports, so everything above the line table, and everything below the line table is also supported. In the coming year, we will also start supporting this behavior for the line levels. That is upcoming, but I think at this point already really nice that you can capture the main data from the PDF and enhance your system where you would like to. The next thing I would like to show to you is the transaction line defaulting. The transaction line defaulting allows you to auto-populate an account or segmentation based on what we can see on the PDF. So if you look now at the lines, we can see there are 3 lines here, all defaulting to 60/10 advertising. We can see the system automatically populates the memo, and we can see all the amounts. But at this point, I'm not really happy with the advertisement account, or maybe I'm not happy with the second class post account. At that point, I can create an automatic rule that's going to investigate the PDF based on my submitted data or logic that I would like to see, and can then auto-populate whatever I would like to. For the demo, I did pull this field forward, normally just a little bit more on the right-hand side, but you can allocate fields in any order that you would like to. But from here, I can simply click in this field, and you can see I have a plus icon here. If I select this one, I can give this particular configuration a name. So in this case, I will create a configuration for the second class post. So I will label this post for now, just really simple. I can then say when should this happen, on which record type. So in this case, I'm working on the vendor bill, and I only would like to apply this on the vendor bill. So I limit this one to vendor bill only. I can also give them priority. Priority means that I can have several configurations that are overlapping and could enhance each other. So you could create really complicated logic here. Then I can define the matching criteria. So I can say that something on the PDF should be equal to, contains, starts, or ends with. In this case, we can see on the line here, the text is second class post. So in this case, I will say contains, and if the line is containing the word post, I would like to apply my logic. The second thing I can do is define when it should work. So by default, if you create this configuration from the line, it will automatically select the vendor that you are working with. So at this point, this is perfectly selected. I can select a subsidiary, so I could select only one subsidiary or all the subsidiaries. That is up to me. In this case, I would like to apply it to all, so I simply select all subsidiaries. And then I can define which account I would like to use. Let's select transport expenses. I can also default department, class, or location if I would like to. And remember, when you create this record and you would go to the native record itself instead of the pop-up, you do have the option to also extend it to custom segments. So there is no limitation in that region. I will select a department. In this case, I will select marketing. I could select a location if I would like to, and I could select a class. But for now, I will only select the marketing. When I press save, you will see that this data is instantly transported to the line itself. So you can see the line is now changing. It is selecting the configuration. If I scroll to the right, you can see the department is now selected. So I could save it at this point, but before we do something like that, I first would like to show you how you can also create this through the menu. If I would navigate to setup, scan and capture setup, we do have the option for the transaction line default. I will open this as a new window, and also here we can create instantly a new one. So I click on new. The screen will look almost the same. In this case, I would like to create one for the line button batch. So in this case, button is the word I would like to trigger on. So I label this button. I select it for vendor bill. It contains the button, and I will apply it to this case to keep it simple to all vendors and all subsidiaries. The account will still be marketing, but in this case, I also would like to have a defaulting to marketing and maybe the location. Just set it to test for now. If I would save this one, of course, nothing will happen on the vendor bill itself because the data is, of course, not loaded yet. And at this point, I could save it, but I would like to show you what happens if I would re-trigger the vendor bill. So at this point, the data is in the system, one line is done manually, and all the line is done through the menu. If I return to the overview, I can re-trigger the logic inside the system. So in this case, I did alter the system, logic has been changed, but the vendor bills are here, will remain the same logic at this point. But if I would press edit and I would choose to save and process, our application will automatically trigger the new logic that has been created inside your NetSuite system. So at this point, I will simply press save and process again, and we can instantly see that the new logic is applied to the vendor bill, and we have created additional automation. In a few seconds, the page will be loaded, and we can now see that the account is different. There's now marketing costs. We have the transportation expenses. We can still see the memo. We can see which rule has been applied. So the button and the post rule has been applied. And we can see here that the department is now defaulting. And with this behavior, you do have the option to almost automate any kind of expense line. You have a one-time setup. When you create that setup, it will be applied automatically when the next vendor bill is incoming. So with this behavior, you do have a lot of flexibility to further automate how the postings are happening inside your NetSuite system. If I would return back to the created rule, and we can see in this screen that there is an additional option. We also have here the new scan and capture additional value. And in this region, I could also set custom segmentation. So when I enter this region, I can go to the fields. I can select one custom segmentation. It doesn't really matter which one you select, but as long as it's this one that you would like to use. And if I would, for example, select next approver, could be one, our application will trigger a pop-up, and this pop-up will allow you to select a value that is applicable to the list that you have. As soon as I would do that and I would set it, you can see that this is the additional value. I could save it, and if this field would be present on your vendor bill, from now on, this rule will also populate this next approver field. So you can automate also additional fields in any way that you would like to. This is all I wanted to show for the demo for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and remember, if you have questions or you have maybe parts where you're not certain how to set it up, our support team is always there to help you, and you can always submit the case to our online portal. I will give the word back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dennis. Amazing demo. Let me put this. Okay, so that does conclude our 2021 releases, but you might be excited to know what's next. I am eager to show you some of the major upcoming releases for the first half of next year. The first topic on the list is a major release, one of that was in high demand. We're planning to release an additional scanning capture add-on solution, an approval matrix functionality that this can really enable our customers to configure any approval rules for all transaction types in a very dynamic way. I will also show you how this will look in a moment. A little later in the year, we will also introduce the pre-scanning station. The pre-scanning station means that the customer will have complete control over what will be processed from the PDFs coming into Scan and Capture dashboard before those documents are processed by our OCR. This will address some of the frequently asked questions, such as splitting PDFs into individual transactions, selecting which pages should be marked as an attachment, rather than having an OCR scanning on each page. And finally, we are also working on some of the enhancements of processing queue. Until now, we have always utilized the standard NetSuite Safe Search functionality. There are some limitations with that, and we would like to expand on its capabilities. So we are building our own layout for that screen, and we would like to share with you a sneak preview of how that would look like. With a sleeker and dynamic look, users are able to navigate in a smoother way. Secondly, having our own screen will also provide us with the flexibility of adding more options, whereas we do not have that with the standard Safe Search. I would also like to show you how the approval matrix setup will look like. You're able to create your own approval workflow in a very user-friendly way. And this can be set up in various different ways, such as approval by class, department, location, as well as custom segmentation. So please keep an eye out to see when this will be available on the release notes. And please do make sure to follow us on LinkedIn to be the first ones to know. So that wraps up the Fast Four's greatest hits of 2021. Today's session was recorded. We will be forwarding it to all of the attendees later today, and it will also be posted on our website. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, just feel free to email us at suiteapps@fastfour.com. Once again, thank you all very much for joining today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you again for the next webinar next year.